Good morning, Trump's family. Have a great Wednesday, everyone. Thank you for always watching and subscribing to the channel. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the news. And things are heating up and getting pretty wild over in Brazil right now. We know the military is actively taking out some of the drug lords, who are pro-communist, pro-Lula, the person who they claim has won victory in Brazil. And we know that the military had already looked into the elections, and the machines and everything that took place. And they found that there was significant amount of fraudulent activity that they can't sit back and allow this victory stand, so they are beefing up the borders right now, because they're afraid of the communists from other countries coming to invade Brazil. And at the same time, we have the Biden administration too by the regime, sending Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor, down to Brazil to meet with the communist leader in Brazil. Absolutely disgusting what our government is currently doing in order for overthrow democracy in Brazil. And this is all taking place right now. Military seems to be standing up. It looks like they are going to back Bolsonaro and declare him the winner of this election. However, we're going to see how this all plays out, because we know the CIA and the Biden regime and the globalist puppets out there want Brazil to turn communists. So let's kind of take a look what we have here. It says Jake Sullivan invites communist criminal Lula to the US as endos protests and Chile threatens to invade. That's right. Joe Biden's national security advisor and Russian conspiratorial Jake Sullivan visited Brasilia on Monday and invited the convicted criminal communists and purported election fraudster Lula da Silva to visit D.C. and dig. This tribes found that fake president-elect hotel and made the ground trouble with their protests. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan traveled to Brazil on Monday for meetings to senior representatives at the Brazilian government and members of the incoming administration of the president-elect Luiz Lula da Silva. Sullivan was accompanied by senior officials from the National Security Council and State Department, the White House report. During the meeting, Dr. Sullivan, or Mr. Solomon, extended an invitation on behalf of President Biden for President-elect Lula to visit Washington. Lula da Silva as a convicted criminal who should be ineligible to become president, which the corrupt Supreme Court of his own nominees vacated while ignoring all reports of election fraud to install their puppet. So of course, he gets to visit Joe Biden. They have a lot in common. However, the Biden regime may be disappointed, as Gateway Pundit reported the army continues to mobilize, with sources confirming and military will act this week to stop the steal and protect Brazil's democracy. Hundreds of thousands of Brazilians continue to protest and urged the army to intervene in Brasilia. Indigenous tribes who occupy the airport and mall on the weekend found a hotel where Lula thief is staying and converged on the hotel, making the ground tremble. Reports stated indigenous people have exact vanity and all these other places that can't pronounce them outside the hotel, chanting that Lula would never become president. Indians once protected by the last downturn against those who bid B, which them Lula security team were forced to beef up security around a hotel where the president-elect is saying, "Our ports and barriers are installed to keep away the protesters." Indos are angry because they were allegedly 0 votes for Bolsonaro from their territories in this no paper all digital elections, and no support President Bolsonaro because he protects them against a radical climate activists who want them to force them to return to the Stone Age. In an interview with Time magazine, Communist Chile and President Gabriel Boric threatened to invade Brazil. If the military prevents the communist coup, the Brazilian army is reinforcing the borders to prevent invasion from their communist neighbors and mobilizing across Brazil. This is all at the behest of the Biden regime and other globalist puppets, probably within the WTF and other places, who want Brazil to be the next communist country ran by a puppet leader. That's what they truly want, puppet leaders, so that way they can continue to move their efforts to just one world global government, where they're going to install medical passports and medical tyranny across the planet. This is their ultimate goal. They want ultimate power, so that way they can go ahead and start on their plan of the population of the planet, and the only way you do depopulation is mass genocide, and that is what these main maniacs are aiming for. And then, this is some big news, President Trump gets some amazing news and the GOP grows their congressional majority, as they flip another blue state red. We're gonna see the latest on the presidential race for 2024. And we're going to see the amazing strategy used by California Republicans to crush the Democrats throughout the state, a strategy that the GOP can use to stomp the Democrats throughout the nation as well. You're not going to want to miss this. Alright, let's start with some pretty impressive news. For President Trump, Trump is getting a massive number of endorsements for his 2024 run, putting an end to the old notion that this contest to represent the Republican Party is anywhere near close or controversial ever since his announcement on November 15 that he'll be indeed running again for re-election. Trump has been racking up a number of endorsements from top Republican leaders. Representative Elise Stefanik was one of the first to endorse Trump even before he announced. Republican firebrand Matt Gaetz, of course, has given his full endorsement, as well as she gave her full endorsement right after President Trump announced on the 15th. Kari Lake, of course, endorsed President Trump, and that's all just the tip of the iceberg. The likes of Troy Nehls of Texas, Ronnie Jackson as well of Texas, Paul Gosar of Arizona, Clay Higgins of Louisiana, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, Texas Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller, Representative Wesley Hunter, newly elected congressman from Texas. They've all given their full and formal endorsement of Trump. Max Miller of Ohio. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And we're seeing senators now getting into the mix of this. Alabama's Tommy Tuberville has given Trump his full endorsement. He endorsed a Tuberville for his election, as he did so with scores of others. Remember, Trump has over 200 endorsements to his name, upwards of 90% of them won, so he's now demonstrating that the Republican Party very much belongs to him, and of course, key endorsements have gone beyond politics. A number of entertainers come out to support President Trump, and 2024 actor Jon Voight has given a very passionate, beautiful endorsement of President Trump, as well as Robert Davi, Antonio Sabato, Jr., Randy Quaid. Now, these endorsements are huge. No one else even comes close to the number of endorsements that Trump has already formally racked up. Yes, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis will pose a real challenge to Trump were he to run. But the problem, of course, is that it's very difficult for a state governor to translate his local state-specific success into a national platform. Scott Walker, for example. He's a very successful governor of the great state of Wisconsin, and back in 2016, he was considered to be the ideal presidential candidate. It was thought he could flip Wisconsin for the Republicans for the first time in 30 years. His presidential aspirations turned out to be a disaster. He's one of the earliest to drop out from that crowded field back in 2016. Or think of Chris Christie of New Jersey. He actually left office with one of the lowest approval ratings ever for a governor of New Jersey, and good riddance, by the way. It turned out to be nothing but a feckless rhino. So the advantage that Trump has in all this is that he represents what Dick Morris calls hybridity. It's a strategy that Morris has been advocating, that Trump is clearly channeling thus far, in that he's running as the first hybrid candidate, part incumbent, part candidate. This is Trump's huge advantage that no other Republican has going into this election. 2024. So as a candidate, as a challenger, he'll go around slamming Biden on high gas prices, inflation, the open border, and the like. And traditionally, the only response an incumbent has to the challengers: well, how do we know that you can do any better? And that tends to be the Achilles heel of any challenger against an incumbent. Incumbent is like, look, at least I've got a record. At least we know what we're gonna get. You know, continuity is the best thing here. Obviously, things could be a lot worse. But this is the advantage of Trump's hybridity. Biden can't say that anymore. So like in his announcement speech on the 15th of November, Trump can point to success after success. After success as a proven track record for getting our nation back on track. This is the advantage he has as a hybrid candidate. And again, no other potential GOP candidate has this advantage, and this is why I believe Trump is racking up so many endorsements, which is huge for his momentum moving in 2024 election cycle. But we have another amazing development as well. The GOP majority in Congress just got bigger, and this was a huge upset. You're gonna love this. Alright, so we got some huge news today. Republican John Duarte has officially flipped a California congressional seat held by Democrats for decades to Arthur was declared the winner for California's 13th congressional district, a district that is actually plus 14 Democrat. It's been a Democrat-safe seat for ages, but Duarte officially flipped the seat and helped make the GOP majority in Congress even bigger into our days. But the latest California Republican to flip another blue seat read in what pundits are noticing to be an amazingly successful voting battle plan known as the SoCal ballot harvesting strategy. California Republicans are employing the same ballot harvesting strategies that Democrats use with their constituencies, making conservative evangelical churches, their absentee ballot centers, putting drop boxes in the middle of all the conservative churches throughout their respective districts. And they are absolutely crushing it, and they've done it 2 election cycles in a row. And this is something that the GOP is going to have to employ. In order to overcome the Democrats' early voting advantage that they're using is covered and totally obscure the Democrat advantage, like in Maricopa County in Arizona on Election Day. Dick Morris is already saying that the Georgia runoff tomorrow in the Senate, it shot for us precisely, because we're behind already 200,000 votes in early mail voting. And he's like, how are we going to overcome that when counties like Fulton County, these heavily Democratic counties, they start engaging their various shenanigans like ballot printers not working and mixing up early votes with election day votes so that early votes get counted twice. And all this nonsense? You see, the Republicans have to have comparable early voting in order to render negligible the Democrat early voting advantage that's used as a cloaking device for all of these shenanigans. So we'll see tomorrow how things turned out in Georgia, but if you're out in Georgia, get out and make sure you vote for Herschel Walker. He'll be amazing. But regardless, Trump is racking up the endorsements, the GOP majority in Congress is expanding, and California is showing us the way to crush the Democrats decisively in 2024. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA. Give me your thoughts below and hit subscribe.